the 2025-2026 school year. For those who don't know us, we're the board. Kristen Riccadelli.
Amanda Fafford.
Diana LeBlanc.
So if you need anything, one of us, you can contact any of us. We also have the general Smithfield SSELAC email that will get also to all three of us. But we all work together, so any point of contact that you feel comfortable with, feel free to reach out to us about anything. We're gonna start by approving our May meeting minutes, which weren't too many.
So our last meeting was May 21st. We approved the April minutes there. We had a SSELAC recap from 24-25. We discussed this school year. We had a special educator director's update, and then we had open forum. And we ended the meeting.
Maybe party.
No.
That's food. Everyone, yes, all right. We're gonna introduce Christine.
Yeah, so our speaker today is Christine Levy from Levy Educational Advocacy, and she's gonna do a little presentation for us. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me and for my neuro brew.
Oh, and this coffee
you,
event.
Amanda and the board. I got to know Amanda through the color run this past spring, which was an awesome event.
Yes.
I look forward to doing it again.
Love that.
So today's presentation, I think, is fitting for a few reasons. One is it's back to school time, so your minds are already thinking, you know, how should I reach out to the team? How can I connect with the team? How do I know my child's schedule and what it looks like during the day? So my focus today is to really provide some strategies that will help you as families to build good connections. And for Levy Educational Advocacy, just so you know, I was a assistant special ed director, special ed teacher, a multi-tiered systems of support coordinator, and a parent. And it wasn't honestly until I sat at the table as a parent when I could look from the inside out. And so I say that so you understand that I have sat at multiple seats at the table. And with Levy Educational Advocacy, our pillars are really around compassion, connection, expertise, and empathy. So that might sound very different from maybe what you've experienced in the past with an advocate or an attorney attending a meeting. But because I have been in a room where people can come in, you know, offend teachers, make people feel bad, that is the complete opposite of our mission at Levy. If anything, our mission is to ensure that we actually feel part of the team. And so I just wanted to give that background. So connections, collaboration, this is a big one because you have home life, school life, community life, and the expertise is myself and my team have all have special ed degrees. We've in some capacity sat, like I said, in an administrative position. My team has a principal that is no longer principal, reading interventionist or reading coordinator. So we're all really bringing the knowledge and the language that really helps with understanding the public school district. And we believe that every child deserves to thrive and that every caregiver and parent deserves to be heard. And I like your shirt, advocate like a mother. And that's really our mission, is that we all have a voice at the table. So I'll start with connection, given that it is the beginning of the school year. I know I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader, and a question often that I hear my, parents ask my kids, or a neighbor asks my kids, do you like your teacher this year? And of course, they answer yes. I mean, I haven't really heard a child actually, without some prompting, say no. And I think that this is really important to build connection with your own child. And they do often fear, so they say no. I'm sorry, they say yes. But it's really important for us to dig deeper. And if your child says, I don't think my teacher likes me, to have a conversation about why. What's that feeling you get? Because I highly doubt it's the teacher wanting to not build a connection. But we are all diverse learners. We all are very individualized. And we're not expected to build connections with everybody we meet. But when you're in a classroom or in multiple classrooms a day, you want your child to be heard and to feel connected. So sometimes these questions can help prompt them. And then you can also follow up in a very productive conversation with the adult, because connection is huge. If we don't establish that from the start, it's really tricky to enter it later on in the year. So these questions, how can you tell and how do you feel when you're with them? I actually asked my daughter this question, and she has a 504 plan, and she lets me share that. I asked her, do you think your fifth grade teacher likes you? And of course she said yes. I'm like, awesome. How can you tell? She said, because she follows my plan. Now, my daughter has been a part of her 504 meetings, at least the end. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? I get to chew gum. She keeps it in her desk. I get to sit by the door. We were in a very bad car accident in 2020, so she feels like she's trapped. So sitting by the door is really important for her. I get to take body breaks. She lets me go to Mrs. Diamo, who's her mentor teacher, to check in. And that's what I heard. Now, all of our kids can't communicate that, but through other modalities, assistive tech, being able to prompt them in a comfortable setting, saying, you're not going to get in trouble if you say no, we're here to help you and to build that connection. This is also a timely time to think about transitions. So I know that there's multiple schools in this district, and the transitions from school to school can be tricky, right? I recommend that in the spring, before the transition year, you initiate if it's not initiated by the team, regardless of your child's disability area, 504 IEP, to set up that meeting, to ask for a transition meeting. It's really key that the new school that your child will be transitioning to has an idea of your child's profile, some immediate things that should be addressed for planning. And oftentimes you can be met with something that is just reasonable and fair. We don't know who the staff is yet, right? There's a lot that happens over the summer. But you can definitely ask, will we ensure we have X, Y, and Z, regardless of the staff? And so that transition meeting is super important in the spring. But if for some reason anyone here did not get to have that last year, and you feel like they're in this new school, it's time to, things are getting a little challenging, call a meeting. Say, Sally went from the elementary to the middle school. We're really having trouble with the transitioning between classes. We didn't expect this. Can we meet? And I think being proactive is super important when you're advocating for your child. And don't feel bad. I know that sometimes we get into situations, and I work with a lot of families that say, I don't want them to not like me. That's a myth to me. If somebody is going to speak to advocate or represent their child, and the other person on the side of the table judges you or gives you bias or makes you feel uncomfortable, then make sure you note that in a very collaborative way. And as an advocate, you can pick up the tone in a room very, very quickly, or on a Zoom meeting, or on a phone call. So make sure you're connecting to the right person that hears you. So collaboration is the next pillar of Levy educational advocacy. What I find often is, because we all wear multiple hats, school and home, and I'll add medical, mental health providers, outside providers, neuropsychologists, therapists, often operate in silos. We probably don't even realize we're doing it because our to-do lists are there and we need to get through things, and there's deadlines and there's meeting invites that need to be sent out. Some tips to support that would be, when you're setting the tone for the school year, whether you've done it already or you're planning to do it after this meeting, you want to ensure all stakeholders are on the email. So when I say silos, if I'm just communicating with the classroom teacher, in my mind, I think she's talking to special ed. I think she's talking to my son's reading interventionist. That doesn't always happen. It's intended and it's good intentions, but common planning time is short. People have things to do. And so you have to put everybody on the email, especially when you're introducing them to your child, sharing an evaluation, sharing the 504 or the IEP, even if it's in your child's file at the administration building or on a shared drive, send it. I also send the neuropsych, because it's really hard for teachers to, at my days 10 years ago, they have to come to the admin office and sign out the folder and take 20 minutes to read it. Not everybody can do that. So don't feel bad when you send that out. Obviously, between the district and a family, there's confidentiality policies. If you want that neuropsych to go in other people's hands that work with your child, like a math interventionist or the school social worker, send it directly to them as well. I go as far with my son, who is very athletic, has significant ADHD, that I send it to his coaches. He loves soccer. He's really good at soccer, but his working memory is poor. And when a coach is yelling at him from the sidelines, he's not processing the directions, and often can lead to teary and upset, because it's not about the skill, it's because it wasn't presented in the way that they learn. And don't be embarrassed to do that. A lot of our coaches are parents. And if they haven't heard of it yet, you're going to give them good information that probably will help the entire team. When you send these reports or evals or introduction letters with all the stakeholders, make sure you open it up to them. Because you are a team, I welcome your feedback. Setting that intention from the beginning sets the tone. And potentially that feedback or the questions could land in calling a meeting, which is okay. Ask for your child's schedule. So at this point in the school year, probably 2-ish weeks in, I have to say that having the schedule, not only just your itinerants that they might come home with, but knowing how many times a week are they really pulled out? I know what it says on the service plan. But if they're being pulled out for reading time, how is my child going to close gaps and not have access to the curriculum? So ask those questions. Maybe they're in the classroom for the first half hour working on access to the core curriculum, and maybe they leave the last 15 minutes to do specialized instruction. But make sure you ask for the schedule. It evolves, it changes. You'll probably get that as a, FYI when it's sent to you. But it also gives you talking points or a picture schedule that you could talk to with your child about. So you have a connection to what's going on during the day. When we talk about IEP progress notes, MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, we want to know, are we meeting our goals? And it's funny because I was an MTSS coordinator. I always kind of giggled because I said, we give more feedback to the families because we have to every 6 to 8 weeks that are more complicated and complex kids that only get the progress notes with the report card. So if you want 6 to 8 week check-ins, I call them little dipsticks along the way to make sure they're responding to the interventions or the goals, ask for it. When we talk about collaboration for older students that may be entering the high school setting or, job coaching or thinking about a transition academy, students have to start their own self-advocacy. And I've worked with families that end up at URI, it's in my backyard, so I go there a lot, who were very prompt dependent throughout their education. And so it's very important that we set the stage to have them advocate and send the email, work on it with them. Send the email to all of your classroom teachers, including the art teacher, PE teacher. Hi, I'm Sally. I'm really good at, these are my strengths. I love to blank, blank, blank. Here's how I learn best. I have a plan. Please read my plan and ask me any questions or have a conversation. Because that will set the tone not only for your child's accountability and self-advocacy, but for all of the teachers. There's no wiggle room to say, I didn't know. So putting it out there and having that accountability with all of the people that work with your child is super important. And when there is that transition to middle or high school, make sure you help them make those connections by letting them self-advocate. So we talked about compassion and connection, empathy. I believe that empathy begins with listening. And when you listen, you can kind of tone the discussion down to make it about the child. That's why we're all here. They have an individualized plan or a 504 plan or a general education student with an intervention plan. think about, put yourself in your child's shoes. Say that to the entire team. And maybe when you do that at the onset, everybody can sit and pause and not react. Some of this also, empathy is when educators can understand your own family dynamics and what works at home and not be so rigid with structures that don't meet your child's needs. And the reason I say that is when I was doing homework last year with my son, we figured out that it was best to do it in the morning. He was done at the end of the day. It was best for him to do one sheet a night. I couldn't even show him the packet that was due on Friday. It was too overwhelming. And when am I going to do this? I don't know how to do this. And we'd have a huge blowout. So I communicated with the teacher and said, I would like quality over quantity. You're sending a 50 fact math assignment. He can show you by doing 10 and circle them. And we had a conversation that wasn't, oh, you're sending way too much home, you don't know my child. It was, how can we think about Johnny and what he needs and what works best for our family? Because when it works best for the family, it's going to carry over into school. That also can create room for understanding and flexibility. So I think those are really important things to talk about with the team, the stakeholders, the teachers, so that you can set that tone of, this is what it looks like at home. Now, sometimes you can be met with, we don't see that here. Invisible disabilities are just that. Sometimes you don't see it. And our students hold it together all day, come home dysregulated, and they're not able to access anything. Their snack, their uniform to put on, their homework, what they have to do, unpacking, and that's okay. Just communicate with the team that that's what it looks like. You may not see it here, but this is what it feels like in our house after school. And shift that narrative. We don't see that here. Do you think that when Johnny puts his head down on the table, it's because he doesn't want to pay attention? All kids are good inside. Nobody is trying to do something on purpose. I believe behavior plans should be called regulation plans because behaviors seem really broad and almost offensive. Like, you're bad. You have a behavior plan, you're bad. Regulation shifts that to, I have anxiety, I'm overstimulated, I'm putting my head down because I don't understand the directions. I can't do my assignment, so I'm going to flick my pencil. Maybe you uncover that that child has dyslexia and comprehended for so long, but when they're actually asked to read text or write about it, they can't. So I think that those are all really important factors with the empathy, bringing it back to the child, and what works best for your family will work best in the school and building the connection. So we talk about expertise and support. So knowledge is power. You're all here tonight for a reason. You're making yourself available to new information so that you can feel more empowered at the table. And you could also support other families to feel empowered. And that's the beautiful thing about groups like this. One of the most important things that I remind families to do from the onset of the school year is to sign all the releases. You don't want to wait until the IEP meeting in November and someone tells you, well, that was expired, so I didn't reach out to the therapist. I didn't know I should have. Typically, they're a year long, and they're from the day you sign them through the calendar year of the day before for the next year. So make it your point to say, I want to ensure the team is talking to our outside therapist. I want the school psychologist and the outside therapist to meet with me, the parent, on an ongoing basis. Let's structure that time now. And there's no wait and see. Do it from the onset. So communication logs and planning tools to share updates. So schools do a really good job, in my opinion, of letting families know on a whole what's going on. Perhaps PTO meeting schedules, perhaps this meeting's on the note. Perhaps it's coming to open house date. But we might need more than that for our students who aren't talking when they come home, who have trouble speaking what they feel and mean. And it's really important that you set up some type of personal communication log for your child and the family that works best. And when we talk about silos, don't make the communication log just yourself and the classroom teacher. So for example, if you know your child's in MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, I like to make a Google Doc that's confidential but shared, so you can see Monday, this is what Johnny did in reading intervention, and the classroom teacher, again, you use that as an opportunity to see exactly what they are working on when they leave the classroom. And the classroom teacher can then try to generalize it. This is really important for related services. So speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Get all the stakeholders on one document. Make sure it's confidential in the way that it should with security purposes, but have some type of group communication with everybody that works with your child. If you have questions, again, feel like you can be heard and ask them. If you don't understand something, stop the meeting and ask. If you leave the meeting feeling unsettled, call the director or call the head of the chair of that meeting and say, this is how I felt. I felt really rushed. I had no idea what the acronyms were, and I'm not signing anything because I don't know what I'm signing. That's okay to say. That's their job. Their job is to make sure that you understand that when you're signing that you agree to the school refusing something you asked for on a prior written notice, or it's not in the IEP, I say don't sign anything at a meeting. You might be emotional, you might be frustrated, you might feel overwhelmed. You have that timeline to take every single piece of paperwork and leave with it and pause. Perhaps you ask a friend that's in this network to help you. Perhaps you call an advocate. Take the time that you need and follow up with the questions to the chair of that meeting. I talk about IEP goals because a lot of times we understand the areas, the broad areas that our children have goals in, but we really don't understand the short-term benchmarks and how what skills and strategies and specialized instruction are being used to teach that skill. At this point in education, there is enough evidence-based strategies and research to know what works. It shouldn't be troubleshooting. The team that is your school team should be that knowledgeable to be able to share the specific skills and strategies that they're teaching you. One thing that I find with a lot of the families we work with is at a meeting, we'll hear the reading interventionist speak up and say, well, Johnny met that benchmark. Well, that's great. STAR, Fastbridge, they measure a certain skill set. They do not measure everything. So no decision should be made on one measure. And I say that because a lot of our families who have students with dyslexia and dysgraphia, STAR doesn't measure encoding. It doesn't look at your writing. There's no writing sample. And so yes, my child might have met that benchmark and is in the green zone, but I'm going to bring my own data and I'm going to show you a writing sample with no prompting, no editing, and I want you to look at how he or she is spelling. It's okay to do that. It's okay to push back, and knowledge is power. So do your research, look up STAR assessment, ask for the reports. Any record or eval that is done for your child through FERPA, you should be able to access. And do the due diligence, take the time and ask for the family report, the teacher report that shows the strategies and skills that they require. It will only help you open up a conversation, because making a benchmark on one assessment does not accurately reflect all of our children. And it's really important that you know that. Because when I was in MTSS, especially in a secondary level, we'd quickly look at the zones of green, yellow, and red. Sometimes the green couldn't write. Sometimes the yellow was just having an off day and should have been in the green. Sometimes the red isn't generalizing skills and strategies, may look great in individual settings, but when you get down to a whole group setting, or when it's all on a screen, they might be in the red zone. So regardless, ask the questions and ask for the data reports over time. If your child is alternately assessed and potentially does not do the universal screening tools, ask, how do we measure specific skills and strategies from the ABLES? From more of a self-care level? What are our goals? What tools are you using to measure? And the most important part of it is the generalization. I don't think a child has met any IEP goal if they're not doing it in multiple settings. And I believe in the teams that we're working with and the families that we work with, where it says how progress is measured, I strongly urge that it's not just the DIBELS, STAR. It shouldn't be just observation either. We need to get specific. Every 6 to 8 weeks, we do a spelling inventory based on the skills and strategies we've taught for those 6 to 8 weeks. That's your dipstick. I want to know how my child's doing in isolation, but then I want this generalized and I want to know how they're using it in a classroom setting as well. So again, push back. Generalization should be across multiple settings and not just in the clinical setting for the related service provider setting or the education setting. When possible, lean on expertise. Find this committee. Talk to people on the board. Talk to people in the community or friends or neighbors. I think so many times we feel as though it's a stigma for us to say, I have a child with a disability, I need support. And I think opening up that conversation aligns with Levy educational advocacy and our last pillar of we are a movement. We are not here to say yes to everything. We're not here to be loud. Advocacy doesn't have to be loud. We are here to do what's best for a child. And when the barriers are put up to do that, it can get really tricky. So make sure you're asking these hard questions along the way and using your resources. Reach out to the therapist. Does this sound right? They're working on, having the child have less prompts in order to access, an assignment. Does that sound right? Ask those questions. Sally should be able to access the zones of regulation 3 out of 5 times in the classroom setting. But what about in PE? When it's unstructured and when, I'm not saying PE is unstructured, but when kids are moving all around, when there's recess, when they actually have the chance to use these skills and strategies that they're being taught, we want them to generalize them in multiple settings. So as parents, as caregivers, as guardians, we have a really hard job. And I believe that for neurotypical, neurodiverse, because we are their #1 advocate. And when we are met with barriers and judgment or bias, that's not okay. And so if you're going to leave with anything today, my hope for you is that you can feel empowered enough to be able to ask the hard questions, to be able to pause and say, I don't understand. And when the meeting starts 15 minutes late and you're cut off 30 minutes into it, sit right down and say, I want this rescheduled. Let's look at our calendars now. I did not have meaningful participation. That's a huge word or words. Meaningful participation. These are your rights. The booklet of procedural safeguards that come home with you or are emailed to you are very, very important for you to read or to reach out to somebody at the administrative level and ask, can you review these with me? I think all parents should have a procedural safeguards class because it's really hard to understand in that moment. Am I supposed to say that? Am I supposed to sign that? What if I don't sign that? It can get really tricky, and meaningful participation is the biggest part. You are an integral part of your child's team. You should not be quieted. You should not be told we don't see that here. You should not be told we don't do that here. Those are the barriers. And in order to move education, and in order to have the tables become what they should be, collaboration, connection, expertise, and empathy, it takes that to do that. So remember, you don't need to have all the answers. It's okay to ask the hard questions. I believe connection is more powerful than correction. So your tone, your delivery, that's also just as important. I think for your child and your children in the home, whether it's the child that's receiving services or siblings, I have lived school refusal, and it can affect the entire family and potentially your neighbors who hear the morning routine, because that's how hard it is. And we can talk and say, oh, I didn't really know why, Sally wasn't coming to school, and I'm so sorry that happened. Well, we need to find out the underlying issue, because maybe when they're there, they're okay. But from that moment, transitioning out the door to the bus or to the front door of the school is not okay. That's not a behavior. That's something in their body and their mind that is not regulated. And going back to our first pillar of connection, that's probably non-existent. So make sure when you have these problems in your home where we're all talking about it at the dinner table, my kids might hear me and my mom or someone talking about it on the phone, model resilience and problem solving. We don't want to add more stress to our kids. Our kids also probably might get embarrassed that we're doing some of this work behind the scenes. They might feel like they're being pointed out or something's wrong. But when we can say, this is a problem and we're going to solve it together. We're not going to judge. We're not going to form bias. We're going to try to work and ask the hard questions, because we expect that from the educators. And make space for your own well-being. And when you figure that out, no, I really mean the importance of even this type of collaboration and making it a priority to come to the monthly meetings, to go to that yoga class. It's easier said than done, but this is hard work. Make that date to walk with a friend who's going through the same exact thing as you, that you both never really connected on. That's self-care. Advocacy is self-care. We say that in our mission because when you can feel the weight of somebody holding your hand through the process and the journey, that's self-care. So we can have a conversation. We can end with some question and answers. I also put the QR code, or you can use the inquiry form on levyadvocacy.com to set up a free 15-minute consultation where you can talk about some of the barriers you're facing, and we will share with you our process. And if that's something that entices you, then we are happy. We are taking on all new clients. And now we're in Rhode Island, Mass, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. So I have 7 advocates because this is a movement, and that's what it takes. So, questions or strategies to share from start of school or your own personal experiences, this is the time, because we're all here for the same reason. I would just ask that they're not super individualized for confidentiality purposes. I'm happy to follow up after, but if there's global questions that I could try to answer, I'm happy to.
I have a question about life skills and IEP goals, which is one of the big challenges that we face, and how as parents that we're able to understand or help the team understand the life skills that need to be gained, but you're faced with that barrier of how does that tie to the curriculum. And for a lot of our kids, I'll speak for myself and my son, those life skills are more critical than being able to do, you know, algebra, for example.
right.
So I'm curious what your perspective is on how to build in those life skills and what some of the areas that we can research or be part of to understand that better.
Sure, that's a great question. I think with the team approach, when you ask for evidence-based, research-based evaluations for like more of a critical term, but not so the child has to sit and answer questions, more of the parent answering some questions, the classroom team answering questions, all the people that work with your child during the day. I find that there are a lot of measures out there that measure life skills in all of those different settings. It's typically your school's psychologist or social worker that should be able to share those with you. I talked about the ABLES before because I do that assessment with a lot of families, and you get that information to write goals. So there are sections on hygiene, on independence with getting dressed and self-care, toileting, being able to organize themselves to get to an activity or a task. I find working on one area at a time, really prioritizing something and getting that goal into the IEP and doing those dipsticks is much better than observations. It's much better than just kind of guessing where the child might need support. And you can use that to write measurable goals. So if the baseline is there on the ABLES, that's something that you could use to write measurable goals for the special education teacher to utilize. Also for potentially a social worker to utilize, or a job coach to start looking at. So ask for different measures. There's not a one size that fits all, but perhaps they're not doing the measure that actually measures the life skills that your child needs to work on. So of course, it wouldn't come up, right? And that's the same thing similar to like the STAR, the universal screeners I mentioned. It doesn't measure the ability to spell or write, but people wouldn't know that. So knowledge is power. Perhaps call the school psychologist or social worker or special ed teacher, or email them. I'm going to call a meeting because I want to ensure the self-care strategies and life skills strategies for my child are embedded in the IEP. I want to know what assessments or measures are out there. Everything you do should be documented, and it should be a part of the agenda for the meeting. So sometimes families email me or forward me the agenda, and I say, well, that's the school's agenda. What's yours? And what we do is we work together, we embed their agenda, and then we add 7 other bullet points of our agenda, because that's meaningful participation. So if you don't feel heard that your child requires a different set of goals, ask the hard questions, ask for more evidence-based research evals. They're out there. If the school district doesn't have them, ask why. Does that answer your question in some ways?
It does, yeah. I think
Okay.
it's that follow-up part of how to get the collaboration going both ways to actually get those goals written in a way that is measurable and makes sense for your child. It seems like the tie to the curriculum is so critical. And unless you're an educator, I don't know how, you know how to do that. So to your point about the assessments and using those baselines, it does make sense.
And it doesn't have to be tied to the curriculum. And you might know that, and that might be a barrier you're facing. But students can be eligible for IEPs when it's not tied to the curriculum. If a student has ADHD and they might be getting all A's, but they don't know how to start an assignment, and that's being tracked and you ask it to be tracked, you have to bring your own data, the school will do their data, and then you have to really voice why it matters. And what I like to do in a lot of our meetings is I future think. So if I'm with your family, I'm with them till they're 22 or beyond, and so are our advocates. But if we don't think about more than that minute in that meeting in this school year where someone's saying it's tied to the curriculum, what's going to happen when they are 22 and they don't have this explicit teaching? So
Yeah, thank you. No, it
You're
makes
welcome.
total sense. Yeah, I appreciate your answer.
you're welcome. That I saw your hand.
Could you repeat your website again?
Oh, sure. It's Levy, Levy, advocacy.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Do you do IEP evaluations? Is that part of services that you guys offer?
Yes. So our services typically are to meet families where they're at. So if you're just starting your journey, you need support, understanding a diagnosis. If you're in the middle of your journey and you want to have an expert review an IEP, give feedback, we can do that without attending a meeting, or we can do that by attending a meeting with you. So some families feel really comfortable with the team and they're able to voice their concerns and opinions. They just don't know what they need to ask for. Or other times it's met with frustration. And so we will attend the meeting and we typically say, we're going to lead. So we want your input. We'll get your input before the meeting on that agenda. But we're going to take the lead now. Well, thank you everyone for being here
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you.
you asking me, and
Yes, absolutely.
again, you know where to find me, so don't hesitate to reach out. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks. You
Thank
too.
you.
You're welcome. I might just shut this, or do you need this?
So, no, we're good.
Okay,
Thank you. Do you want us to unplug you or you can plug it?
yeah, and I'm just gonna make sure my Google isn't live here. Oh, there I am.
I think if you unplug the one still plugged in, you should disconnect.
There we go. Thank
Continue. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is, just very few things about this upcoming year, and what our focus is. And it's like a jumping point from this presentation. Our focus this year is IEPs, everything to do with IEPs. You wanna talk more about it?
Yeah, so as we sat down over the summer as a board, a lot of what we thought about was families don't know what's in the IEP, how to read the IEP, the acronyms within an IEP, your goal times, they don't understand. Somebody's getting 0.33 of a service time for speech, and everyone's like, what is that? And we're trying to break it down, and over our meetings, it's a lot. An IEP can be overwhelming. You're sitting with a group of, could be 10 people in one room. You're walking in, it is a feeling of not knowing, you shut down. I've been in the beginning of my family's journey, I felt like, yes, they're absolutely agreeing with everything and not knowing what's on the paper because I didn't know what to question, what to ask. Was this really the best for my child on here? And I'm like putting it on somebody else's hands 100%. So we'd like to shift it a little bit to educate parents, families, caregivers, grandma, whoever wants to learn about what an IEP is, the goals in which an IEP is, if it's measurable, the accommodations, even educating children. I have a kid that's 13 and I'm like, I need to start educating you on what's in your IEP. So this is gonna be coming up for you to advocate for yourself, like you said. So that's our sole focus of this year. Last year, we thought about a lot of different goals and we touched on them, but looking forward for this school year, IEPs, educating families, educating students, and having, you know, faculty and staff input as well and sharing their sides of different things. It's important to be everybody to be a team member. So, but also having parents feeling their voice heard and knowing what they're saying, you know, knowing, not feeling uncomfortable as you walk into a meeting. So anytime throughout our meetings, we're going to set up little things going forward of just little snippets of IEPs, because it's a lot. You know, some of our IEPs can be 30, 40 pages, depending on the child. They could be small, they could be larger, and there's other things that are attached to IEPs, right? You can have functional behavioral plans, safety plans, all sorts of different things attached to an IEP. So knowing, just knowing the supports for your child and knowing what you can input in there as well, if you feel like something could benefit your child. So that's
Gonna be like as broad, but then also bringing it back to like pretty specific parts of IEP, so it's really gonna. That's why if you guys have been following us this year, we actually have a meeting every single month. In prior years, we have not done that. But we wanna make sure that we can, like I said, go from as broad of what the IEP even layout just in general is supposed to look like, what they all mean, to like really breaking it down, even down to like data tracking and what you can do as a parent and track your own data and how you can bring that in to the meetings. We even have Eileen will be a presenter in November to talk about specific IEP stuff in Smithfield. So that way families have, you know, she's gonna have a presentation that you'll be able to ask her directly questions, obviously not more individualized questions, but the broader questions. So they're coming directly from our special ed director.
It's also important to note too, just because your child's IEP looks like something, it doesn't mean it fits the next child. So my kid's IEP is not gonna fit your child's needs.
None of our IEPs.
Nothing is gonna fit. It needs to be individualized education plan. So that's also important to note as we keep going on the year.
Any questions about that? If you guys have like specific questions about an IEP, feel free to either let us know after, drop them down, shoot us an email so that we can make sure that that is touched on, whether it's in Eileen's presentation or just throughout the school year, that we make sure that we really, you know, answer the questions that you specifically have about the IEP process and the IEP itself. Another thing we're doing this year is we are making a new email list. We have tried to send out emails in the past and we are getting so many bounce back to us. And so we're just gonna start over from scratch. So if you want emails directly from us, we still have, Eileen sends out emails from us every month, or when we get them to her, we have them going out through the principals, but directly from us, if you can add it to the new email list, even if you've given us in the past, we're just scratching that one and starting all over. Next is the events that we already have scheduled. We have some other things that we're talking about in the works for the year, but these are the ones that are officially scheduled. We have dates, times, everything, that we want to make sure you guys get on your calendars now if you want to attend them. The first one is Unified Day, which is next Friday. Hopefully all of the schools have let you know to wear green. That's like the biggest thing. It is all five schools, the fire department, the police department, the libraries. Sometimes town council gets involved with it. Just throughout town, everybody's wearing green to show just the unity and the support for, the special education community within Smithfield. And this year we are going a little bit bigger. The first thing, I'll talk about the banners and we talk about the videos. The first thing we're doing is, we're distributing banners. You can see a banner back there. That's the Old County one, but all 5 schools are getting a banner that we're gonna be dropping off Monday. For every student and staff member to sign, just saying that they are unified, and we're gonna take those banners on Unified Day. We'll go around on Friday and collect them all, and we're gonna hang them all during the color run, so they'll see them throughout the color run. Because that is how we kind of link the beginning and end of the school year. For those who didn't know that, we start the year with the Unified Day and we end it with the color run. Unified Day being all green and the very last color of the color run being green to like solidify that full circle. So we, are excited to have these banners up to show, so the kids can run through it, they can show their families, like, hey, look at that, or they'll see their staff members that signed it. But that's something new that we're doing this year.
Just to kind of grow on that. So the whole Unified Day and the whole mission of SELAC as we became a board, 3-4 years ago now? 4 years ago when Di and I joined on with Kristen, because Kristen was kind of solo board member for a little bit throughout COVID. We decided to revamp it, and we met again that summer, and we're like, what's like the issue? Like, what do we see as a bigger picture? And we came to the conclusion that special education comes with a stigma. And a lot of times with families and students, and if their child receiving special education, sometimes they don't want to talk about it. Everyone's at a different part in their journey of accepting, acknowledging, knowing it's okay. It's okay your kid has special education services. It doesn't define them. It doesn't make them less than anything. 1 in 5 kids have dyslexia. So when you're in a classroom and there's 25 kids, 5 kids out of that classroom most likely have dyslexia. It's a statistic, it's known, and everything else. Everybody has everything going on. I'm sitting here dropping my pen because I can't stop fidgeting. And as I start to learn more about my kids' learning, I'm like, oh, I'm the same way. So it's important to break that stigma. So I grew up in a generation where it wasn't as confined as my parents, but there was still a stigma when oh, special ed, and the acronym of SPED turned into something that was negative, and it doesn't have to be negative at all. Special ed should not be negative. So to break the stigma behind kids needing help, kids in the classroom needing help, special educators helping, in a perfect world, I'd love to see every classroom code taught. Obviously not a budget standpoint, but just saying in a perfect world, that would be great, where no kid can see somebody having extra help. But yeah, so we started with green as unified. Everyone is Smithfield first in our town. And then we expanded to the idea of, the community, and saying, what if we do a color run? And the whole purpose of the color run was, we feel like if people don't know about different abilities, that's where the judgment comes from. So to kind of have people understand these different abilities, have a table where we had Down syndrome RI, we had Christine Levy there, we had Autism Project, we had Doug Flutie Foundation, we had Decoding Dyslexia, the ARC. It grew from two tables the first year to the third year. We had like 30 something vendors throughout Deerfield. It grew enormous. We had 600 people show up. Kids were running through, stopping at the tables and not realizing they were learning about different abilities. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see the community get, colorful, learn about different abilities, stop at the green and understand everybody looked different at the end. Like everyone's color different and everyone was still a human at the end of it. So it was We had herb brews there as well, coffee in the back. But it was an important message for the whole community to see. So that is, I don't think anyone really understands what Unified Day is. They're like, oh yeah, we're green special ed, okay, blah, blah, blah. There's a message behind it. So as a district, I hope that eventually gets out that you start with green, we end with a big colorful bloom, and then we end with green because it is Smithfield and we're all kind of respecting each other. Sorry, not to keep going, I keep talking forever.
Videos,
Videos. So this year we decided,
trying to get videos.
I'm trying to get videos. I need to check to see if I have any in the email, but you hear about Unified Day, people post it, it's in the bottom of a long email that nobody really reads the whole email that principals send out. I know that's awful to say, but
Well,
you know, you're like, oh my God, I get through it, and you see Unified Day tucked in there, like, yeah, I'll put my kid in green. But then you ask your child, what is Unified Day? And they're like, I have no idea. So we wanted to know what unified means to kids, like, and to adults, and to community members, and what is everybody internalizing Unified Day? So what does unified mean to you? So that's the question we wanted to do, like a topic this year. So it's, what does unified mean to you? And if anybody wants to send their kids, if you want to record yourself and send it to our email, we're going to compile the video and post it out on Unified Day, kind of celebrating.
Do you like them to wear green in the video too?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
just what does it mean to be unified? And it could be one word. It could be unified means inclusion.
Yeah, it
Unified
doesn't have
means
to be the full 30 seconds,
together.
it's just under 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be 5 seconds, that's fine.
Yeah, it could be one word, could be up to, you know, but just kind of getting what it means to everybody, because it's gonna be interpreted differently through everybody that hears that name, that word. So that's what we decided to do this year. I've been emailing like crazy famous people thinking they're gonna get back to me, and this is a totally moment that I have.
I've been emailing all the sports teams,
Yeah.
like all like
Yes.
all of the universities everywhere, and they're all like, yeah, sure. Okay,
So I'm
where-
still holding out for somebody, and I'm just gonna keep bothering them until somebody sends me what does
Something.
unified mean to them. Yeah, so if you can send me videos so I can have something to combine. And you know, staff can send it, Eileen, whoever wants to send what Unified Day, it would be great. I'll send them.
That's good. The next one is October 19th. The Smithfield Fire Department puts on a free CPR and first aid class. It's free for us, for them, but it's free for us. And every fall we've done a class. This is, and some springs we've done it. I think this is our 6th or 7th class that we've done. They've all been pretty full. You do get certified for 2 years. Registration is required. We will be putting a graphic with the link up on our Facebook page soon. It's just to make sure that we have enough instructors for the instructor student ratio. This year, in addition to CPR and first aid, we are also doing Stop the Bleed as an addition at the end of the class. In the registration, it does ask if you want to participate in that. I know some people don't want to participate in that, so I don't want people to feel like they have to. So I did make sure that the instructor will do it at the end. He's going to do the CPR and first aid first, and then he'll do a pause. Whoever wants to leave, they can leave, and then he'll do Stop the Bleed. The class with everything is 4 hours long. It is long, but that's if you want to do everything. Again, it could be shorter if there's not a lot of people. But you know, he told me on the longer end, especially because typically we do have about 15-20 people that sign up when we put this out. So just let you know, and you do get a card. Again, it's all free to us, and it's just for everybody, 13 and older. Literally anybody can sign up for it.
Where is it?
It's 47 Farnham Pike, so it's right next door to the school admin building. It was the VFW hall.
Oh, where they used to do like the COVID testing?
Yes.
Yeah. It's now the EMS training
Oh.
office. So it's convenient. We used to use the police community center, so they would have to like bring everything over, but now they just have their own space, and they can actually they can take more people in a class in the space that they're in now. So it worked out nicely. But yeah, if you have any questions about that, let me know. And like I said, we'll post that registration soon. And we'll get it to Eileen to blast out. We do usually have staff, we usually have school staff and bus staff that attend. We've had at least 2 to 3 every single time, so that's always nice to see as well. Yeah, I don't.
So Lighted Up Red is at the State House. We went for our first year, last year, and we had a goal of being the biggest town there, and we were. Just because I'm competitive, you know, we're gonna do it. So I'm hoping to do that, you know, so I like to do our other towns and show them that Smithfield's the best. And we had, I don't know how many people showed up for decoding dyslexia at the State House, so they do like a little presentation. They light the lighthouse up red. It is on a Wednesday, which isn't my favorite day of the week.
For a meeting, so we can remind you.
Yes, last year was on a Friday, so I'm a typical Rhode Island driver and I don't like to drive far, so Providence is far from me on a Wednesday night, but I'm gonna make the trip. So it's also the SHS showcase, which I just looked over, so we understand people having other stuff to do, but if you can and would like to come to the State House and make a long Rhode Island trip to down Smith Street.
Carpool.
Carpool. I could take 6. But yeah, so Light Up Red, the State House, they do like a little presentation, they gave out free books.
And they lit up.
They light it up red.
And the surrounding buildings are all lit up red.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It was very, very cool. Tiffany Solomon, who owns the
Gin.
Greenville Nursery, she also, I think she's on the board at Decoding Dyslexia, but she's been an awesome asset to Decoding Dyslexia, and she was from Smithfield. So she spoke at one of our meetings, and I'm hoping to get her back to speak, but she also spoke last year. So if anybody wants to make it there, we'll find out the exact time, we'll post about it, but we can also organize a photo on the State House. We took our kids, everyone dressed in red.
The next thing is the Santa, our sensory Santa that we have. It's the first Saturday, December 6th, here in the cafeteria. We're gonna take over more areas. Last year, we actually put Santa in the hallway, which worked out for some kiddos that don't want to deal with all the craziness that's happening in the cafeteria. So we're definitely gonna do that again. We just put them in a separate space. And we're gonna try to do it, add some things, maybe like some fun games. We have a photo booth, just, you know, just to have fun. It's from 9 to 12. It's a free flowing event. You don't have to sign up. Just come whenever. But yeah, more info coming on that.
And that's at the high school.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the day of the parade. So
Yeah.
It's before the parade.
Yeah, it's in the morning. Usually it's 9:30 to 12:30, but this year we're doing 9 to 12. Because
Gets you
people
out.
have talked about the parade, and just, there's so many events that happen on that day because the parade's at night. And we do it on that day because we don't wanna block any of the other schools and all of their Santa events. So we, you know, I collaborate, I actually went to every single school and was like, what day is your Santa? What day is your Christmas thing? Or holiday event, because we don't want to overstep and have families have to choose which event that they want to go to, because that's not fair either.
Right.
Right, Laura?
Yeah,
Just
color
the
runs
date.
May 2nd.
We have the date.
Rain date, May 2nd.
That's it.
And yeah,
More info.
more info to come. It's in May. I've already had people ask if they could register. I'm like, it's September. Give me some time. So yeah, it's coming out, but probably look around February if anybody wants to register.
But just so you have it on your calendars, I know that was a thing last year, people were saying they still didn't know the date, so we're telling you now, we will tell you every single meeting, so everybody has the date locked in.
Yes.
Really?
So, we're up and running, school is open, had a good beginning, fully staffed, which is exciting because a lot of districts are still looking for staff, so I'm very excited that we have staff. I was contacted by Ralph Poland from Massachusetts, who developed the safety net system, and he has worked with the Smithfield Fire Department with this, and he said he would be willing to come and talk if you wanted him to. He did send me brochures that I left on my desk because I was at town hall. And thought, "Let me get that to us." But it's a GPS system, not a tracking system, but it does help locate if a child was lost, and so he would be willing to come and present that if he wanted, and I'd give you his contact
Yeah,
information.
that's good.
The other thing, that's in process is, the Best Buddies program. So, we've been going back and forth.
They're coming on October. They're coming, yeah.
So hopefully we'll be like up and running in October. This week we've already met with them. I've had staff, express interest in being the advisor in their school. And so he has met with them already. And now I'm in the process of just confirming, like, all right, now you know about it. Now you know what the commitment is. Like, are you really interested? And so I'm really, happy to report that we have teachers, paras, gen ed teachers, itinerant teachers, like a big variety of staff have, said that they were interested. So I'm just waiting for a few more, commitments to come in. And then what the district does is the principal and probably the superintendent will need to just sign saying, yes, we agree to be a chapter, because there are other commitments along with being a chapter that we have to acknowledge. And hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll be ready to go with recruitment.
Which is great, because Best Buddies connection came from the Color Run. It was another great thing that the Color Run, they came to the Color Run. We talked a little bit, they started talking about chapters, and they only had around here, I believe it's Brian.
Right.
But it's not for younger kiddos, so he was saying there was none. I think Lincoln might have
Lincoln
just set
doesn't.
up theirs.
Yeah.
So we started talking, I'm like, well, it would be great, you could talk to our special ed director and talk to our superintendent and try and get it going, so it's great that, if anyone, is everyone familiar with Best Buddies? Great,
So
so,
what grades are they doing? Is it
So
gonna
we're
be,
looking to elementary to high school, which is a big task.
because I reached out to Brian for my son,
Yep, so we
because they're
have,
meeting today.
yeah,
But I didn't sign up for that because I was coming here and.
but we have
they
had
reached
high
out to me
school.
because, but Smithfield is only the transition program, but they were looking for kids from the high school to join Brian.
Yeah,
But I kind of was on this poll, so.
yeah.
waiting to hear.
the Brian.
From
we
here, so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
we
you
have
brought it
had
back.
kids from here participate with Brian in
That's-
the past. And they weren't in the transition program, they were.
No, right,
Yeah.
because Tyler has friends that
yep.
go there.
Yep, so we
Also,
had that, but
It's
there
also a
are.
PC program too. but-
Yeah, there are staff here interested, at the high school. The high school chapter runs a little different than elementary. So the overall goal is to make like connections, right? And so develop that one-to-one connection. So that will be the goal for this year. He sets a lofty goal of like trying to make like 10 matches, per building, but he's like, you're just starting, like you might not get that, so. But at the high school level, the leadership team, so the students, they get invited to, like a leadership retreat in the summer. So that's like another layer of commitment. It's out of state, and so there's
Well, Cindy
travel.
does it at
Yeah,
Assumption,
like,
so I-
some travel involved. Elementary, there isn't that. There are still officers and, the advisor helps, coach and direct that, but. The goal is an event like once a month, for each school to host.
So do you foresee that happening this year here?
Yeah. I do. I'm really close. with getting it going. Yeah.
A little bit.
Do they do stuff, is it after school?
So it could be anything.
Okay.
It could be, so
So
that.
you know why I'm asking.
Yeah. So events could be after school, they could be weekends, they could be as simple as, there's a soccer game, like let's all go and cheer on our team, but we do it, together. So it could be things like that. Or it might be, an event that the school is hosting anyway, and they decide, a dance, and so everybody, participates in that.
Any group. like my daughter, like the Assumption one, and meets like once a month and they may do a craft night.
Yeah.
Or they do, like, there's, they went bowling or they had, a Halloween party, a Valentine, you know, like a theme for the month,
Yeah.
you know.
He said it is easier to go with like holidays that are happening, like natural things that are
They
happening.
had like animals come in.
Yeah.
What will that look like in the middle school? Like, I know you said high school looks different than the elementary, but like, what
Yeah.
would that? would it
So
stand-
middle school, you know, the events are gonna be up to that chapter.
Mm.
I'm not gonna.
Everything's
So
gonna
it's the
be
same
ran.
thing, they'll still have
Same
events,
thing.
same exact thing.
Yeah.
And it's all different chaps, so Smithfields could look different than my daughter does it in her high school, and every Wednesday they go to Meeting Street. And, cause the school closes at 1:30 and an hour, they build like bunch of connections too, so,
Yeah. I mean, it could be different from school to school depending on what that chapter decides to do. So each chapter is registered individually, even though we're
Mhm.
district. So that's ongoing. So hopefully when he comes next
Yeah.
month, I'll have
Yeah, he'll get
Something,
something
yeah.
more to
Yeah.
report.
yes,
details,
yes.
so.
And then the last thing, on our first day of school is a professional development day for all staff. And so all special educators, were trained in practices used in the facilitated IEP process. So not running through the whole facilitated IEP process, but just identifying some of those good practices. And so now teams are talking about like their takeaways. And so, for example, you know, one of the best practices is to have an agenda for the meeting, to get parent input for that agenda. Some teams do that already. The teams that don't do that, they might decide, oh, that's what we want to implement for this year. So you might see some new practices when you go to your IEP meetings this year. You might, you know, some of the things we talked about were, you know, meeting norms, an agenda, somebody reaching out beforehand, explaining like, what is a reevaluation meeting that we've just invited you to, and talking about that. You know, asking for input, emphasizing, you know, those documents, it's best practice that they go out, you know, before the meeting to gain input. So you might notice some different things when you go to your IEP meeting. I hope you do, but they're still kind of, again, each building is kind of taking it where they are, like, we already do agenda, so now we're gonna work on, calling parents before, you know, so they're trying to decide, you know,
Is
what
it-
they wanna implement for this year, and just taking it, you know, in smaller steps, not the whole process, but just those best practices.
Is it next year that the oh my god, I quit.
Yeah,
That it says that families have to get the IEP 2 days before, is that?
so that is in process right now, so the legislation was
There we go.
written for
Word.
It was written so that parents had documents 3 days before. But in addition to that legislation, now you know how we have 60 days to complete
Right, yeah.
evaluations, or you have to get, so with the 3 days before, they asked RIDE to now look at regulations, because now do we make the timeline like 63 days? So RIDE has not taken up that work yet, but you're right, it's under a deadline, that says by, I wanna say December of 2026, there's supposed to be guidance with implementation happening, right in 2027. But RIDE has not given us any, guidelines yet at
Says
this
27.
point.
I thought it was 26, that's what I was asking, but.
Yeah, I think it's
fine.
the dates are like right after each other. And I can tell you, like, so we're talking about the IEP this year. Yesterday, RIDE put out for RFP for, an agency to bid on creating a new IEP, form, and so
Really?
that, I think, if I could predict, that's gonna go in line with that revamping,
The days and stuff.
yeah, of the, you know, legislation, which is fine, I mean, RIP form itself has been in existence for many years, I wanna say, I mean, probably since the reauthorization in 2004, so it's been quite a long time since it's revamped, but IDEA hasn't been reviewed either, so.
Right. I mean, the form itself is.
Sorry, this is my, sorry guys. Back in
I
that
just
time.
had a little bit. The form itself, like, are they looking to change the whole IEP format? Is that what they're looking for?
What is the initial?
Or more user friendly, like, cause for
I
a
mean, I
parent,
think there are some things that the Rhode Island IEP has that is not in the federal.
Oh, really?
PA legislation, and so I think they need to look at that, like Rhode Island really goes over and above what other states do. So some other states, there are no objectives, in
Really?
IEPs, it's just a goal written, and so.
and no
we don't-
short-term measurable benchmark, wow.
No, it's more of an annual goal. Some frequency, the times on the service page look different in some other states, some do it like for a cycle. Some do it in like a 5-day cycle or a 6-day cycle. Some IEPs come in that I've seen that just has like a total number of minutes per week, so not per day. So, but it's not that specific in federal guidelines, so people, different states interpret it different ways. I don't know that it'll be a whole revamp,
Yeah.
but we will see.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, anything, if you need anything, our emails are online as well as our Facebook page too.
Right, so